Welcome back, one and all, to PodStance, the PunkStance Podcast. It is me, once again, doing an introduction to this latest episode of Albums That Saved My Life. This is episode 14, if I'm not mistaken. Otherwise, I've horribly miscounted the number of episodes I've done, but it's absolutely ramping up. I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's been listening and everyone who's gained interest. I've had so many people approach me about the project and so many people wanting to come on the show, people that I know, some people that I don't. There's another episode, a couple of episodes with new groups of people that I've got coming up, so it's really exciting. I've got a few booked in for January, February. I've got one in a couple of days, actually, one in sort of mid-December. So there's so much going on, but I thought I'd bring it back to the roots of the show this time with someone I know, someone that I'm personally aware of, and one that I've been meaning to do for a while. I mean, this person in question has actually been on an episode before, just not their own. They they were in the Slam Dunk special, as it were, which was my brother, who obviously did the third episode with Lower Than Atlantis as his main artist pick and world record as the album. And this time it's his partner Becca's turn. Becka I've known since I was probably about 15 or 16 when they first got together. She's now been part of the family for about 7 or 8 years now, and she's a very, very smart, very, very interesting person who she's great to hang around with, and she's, now a member of the family, as it were. And it was really nice to get her knowledge and her understanding on basically a band that I didn't know a lot about, but I knew that she was very interested in talking about. It's one that's followed her for a while, through thick and thin, through all her journey to meeting us as a family, and it's kind of got her through a lot of times that haven't been so great, but sometimes that have, and it's played a sort of multi-role in helping her in all sorts of situations. I'm starting off with the nice things because I make fun of her relentlessly all the time, and that's the best part about about it. It's just, that's what you have to do with your soon-to-be sister-in-law or whatever it is. I don't really know what I'm going on about. She's the partner of my older brother, and she wanted to talk about a band. There you go. That's the show, and I sometimes take the piss out of her because it's really easy to, and it's really funny. But I wanted to thank Becca. She's been very patient with this. Obviously, it takes a while to plan this stuff out, but she's been very patient, and now she gets the chance to show off her knowledge about a band that I didn't know a lot about. I won't spoil it now because the episode's about to start in about a minute and a half. So, yeah, I just wanted to do a big thank you to everyone for listening in. I'm really looking forward to having this one out because it's, again, with someone that I know personally, and I always think these ones are really nice, just to get an insight into people's lives, or people that I've known for a while. So, yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you to Becca for coming on the show. I actually went to their place in London to record it, so I've done my travelling for work, hooray. But yeah, it's I hope you enjoy it. Have a great listen. Thank you, Becca, again. And yeah, I'll see you on the other side. We'll see what happens. Yeah. We'll see what happens. I've positioned it so hopefully I haven't done a live one in a while. Ooh. I've done mostly over Zoom. So this will be authentic audio rather than just sound being filtered through, Zoom's incredibly terrible systems. I still refuse to pay for Zoom. So you get a free 40-minute meeting. So I have to tell every single person that, we're going to do 40 minutes. Then I'll go for a piss, and then we'll come back. And then they go, okay, cool. I'm also going to go for a wee and or a poo. Lovely. And that's how I connect with people on this show. Ah, fabulous. Thankfully, I don't have to do that with you because I've known you... Well, it's more you've known me.
I think we've known each other.
For years and years. Yeah, but I was a naive little boy when you met me.
That makes it sound really dodgy.
You met me when I was a naive little child.
God. I'm going to preface, if you keep this in, that it's because I met you when you were... Hang on, actually, how old are you now? 24?
I was a child, Becca.
Shut up. I'm dating his older brother. That's why.
I would have been, 16?
Yeah.
16 or 17.
Yeah.
So
God, that's terrifying.
Technically a child. As Dipper said in Gravity Falls. He's 13, technically a teen. And yeah, now I'm 24 years old. And we just went to the same party.
We did.
So that just goes to show that age is quite literally just a number. Only in that sense. No other sense. Well, glad to have you on.
Yeah, very happy to be here in my own flat.
Yeah, in your own house. I've invaded your space.
You're welcome.
Though I have slept on the very sofa that we are doing this on right now. But yes, obviously we've known each other a while through means of the man sat over there. My brother is actually here. He decided to listen to the live show. We've already done an episode with you and him, but you're going to remain quiet as to you've had your moment, you've had your fun.
You've been in the spotlight. It's my turn.
You were early on, nearly a year ago.
Wow, really?
We did that episode, so we get to celebrate by you having your opportunity.
Yeah.
The opportunity in question we've mentioned for a while. Ever since James did his episode, you were like, "Oh, I've got a band to talk about rather than a specific album," but we've narrowed it down anyway. So for the listeners out there, would you like to explain to them who the band is and a brief summary of why you like their work?
Yeah, so the band I'm going to be talking about is Against the Current. So they're an American band, pop punk, probably more pop than punk, I would say. But, they go to Slam Dunk and, they have always been featured on, like, the punk playlists. So we'll take it. We'll say that they're pop-heavy punk, as it were. And I've really, really liked their music, since roughly about 2017, I think. So it's quite a long time. They actually started as a covers band, so their original discography, as you would say, is not very long. They got big on YouTube doing a lot of covers. They've got they've got 3 original albums. And the one that I'm probably going to talk about the most, which is actually more of an EP than an album, is Fever. I was actually introduced to them while I was at uni. Not even my flatmate, a girl who was friends with a boy that I basically adopted because he was living in the flat next door to where I ended up living. And when you start uni, actually back in the day, because this is how old I am, you find people on Facebook.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. No, so like when you start uni, back in ye old time of 2016, we went on Facebook groups and put in like, I'm gonna be in this flat in this student accommodation. Who are my neighbors or who's in my flat? And you like try and connect with the people that you're going to be living with for a whole year that you will never have met before, that are complete strangers to you. Anyway, so this was the guy that I first met, who I first started chatting with when I went to university. And he was living in the flat literally right next door to mine. And he never found his flatmates on this Facebook group. So because we'd connected so early, I was like, okay, well, first day, I'm moving in on this day. And he was like, oh, well, I'm also moving in on that day. I was like, great, we'll go and get a coffee, we'll go get a drink, whatever, go say hi, and I'll have a friend. And yeah, we were really good mates all through uni. Still mates now, of course, but obviously I don't see him as much. But that first day, I basically went, well, if you don't click with your flatmates, you're always welcome in our flat. So I'd already met all of my other flatmates at this point as well. So they all kind of went, yeah, he's sweet, he's very nice. And we basically adopted him, and he pretty much lived with us. He just kind of went down the hall to his own bed, but throughout the entire rest of the days, he would sit with us. And he brought his Xbox. Like, we had all of his, like, expensive kit in our flat.
Sounds like the definition of a squatter.
Kind of, but yeah, he was great. He was a lovely guy. And anyway, so he made friends on his course, and they started coming over to our flat as well. So we ended up this was a 6-person flat, and we ended up being like 8-9 people that pretty much lived there all the time.
The clown car of
university frats, yeah. So anyway, so his friend is the girl that was really into Against the Current and started showing me their videos on YouTube. Again, back in the day before Spotify was like crazy huge, so it was like watching YouTube playlists while you got ready for pre's or whatever. And yeah, so she put on their stuff, and I liked their sound. It was originally their covers because their first album hadn't actually come out yet. And it came out over the course of 2017. So I kind of got in on like the ground floor of them becoming their own artist in their own right, other than them just being a covers band. So yeah, they'll always have like a really special place in my heart because of that, and because it's very much tied to my uni experience, which I really enjoyed.
And then the one that you were mainly thinking about, which was Fever, which came out in 21.
Yes.
That was after you'd left university. So
that was after I'd left university. So that was God, 21, was we still in a pandemic then?
I think we were. That was almost peak pandemic, depending on when. I think it came out in July.
Yeah.
So it was the summer of 21 when things were quote unquote calmer, whatever that means.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would have been peak summer in peak COVID.
Yeah. So yeah, for that, I think I was living at my grandparents' house when that came out. And there was like absolutely terrible Wi-Fi because I went and looked after them. And yeah, so I went and lived with my grandparents that summer. And I was working in like a local shop because, well, there wasn't really a lot going on.
What else is there to do?
Pretty much, yeah. Like it was one of the only industries where it was like, wow, you're a key worker. You can like go out and like, you know, that kind of thing. So, you know, that was good. And it was good to get like cheaper groceries when, you know, everything was expensive. I mean, and I just finished uni.
Any benefits at that point, wouldn't you?
Literally every benefit. So yeah, I was working in a shop and with my grandparents a lot. So I mostly didn't have internet at this time because their internet is genuinely atrocious. But I remember like knowing this album was coming out, and I downloaded it the day it came out. And I think that was the only thing really I was listening to over that summer. So, and it's like it's 6-7 songs. It's
7
not long.
songs, yeah.
Yeah.
22 minutes long, so...
So 22 minutes just kind of on repeat.
That's a decent EP, though.
It's a really good EP. I really like... honestly, there is not like a single song on there that I would skip. It's still... Every single song on there is in my regular rotation that I listen to every day.
Over the 7 in there, obviously, there's a fair... I personally haven't listened to it in detail.
Okay, fair.
As much as you would have. But after you mentioned it, obviously prior to this, I thought, I'll have a quick listen. Of the 7, there's quite a varying sense of tone.
Yes.
And quite a varying sense of titles. Of the 7, are there any that really, like, strike you in a certain manner, or do they all sort of conglomerate into just one album? Do you see it all as a collective, or do the songs have a more individual personality to you?
I don't know. I mean, for me, yeah, it is very much it being its own album. But that said, I obviously have my favourites because you would. Weapon was the first one released. I believe that just came out as like a single, like announcing they were doing this EP. And I remember like when that came out, just absolutely loving it first go. And yeah, I was just all over it. I think I showed it to a few people that I was working with, like put it on in a break room kind of thing, and everyone was like, "This is great. Why are you showing me?" I was like, "Okay, I'm trying to share my hyperfixation here, but all right, it's fine." But yeah, no, Weapon's a great song, really punchy, really upbeat, and it was just kind of what I needed to like hear at that time because it was so vibrant and everything was so depressing. And it was like, oh great, this is something I can vibe with. It's upbeat, it's great for that walk when you've got to like psych yourself up for a day where you're customer facing, and yeah, that was always good.
Yeah, tell me about it. Everyone has that one song when they have to deal with people.
Yep, Nick is having war flashbacks to working in a pub
Oh
right now.
my god.
Pardon me, beer cafe.
Don't add the pretentiousness. It had too much of it already. It literally had they had this stencil on the side because it was a beer cafe, as you say, which is already douchey enough. They had to add their own... The guy was very into his... Well, he was into hip-hop, but that kind of ruins the joke that he was going for, because on the side of the wall, it just said hip-hops.
Right.
Hops, of course, being what you use in beer-related things. And every time I looked at it, it just made me sad, because I was like, this is the kind of place I'm working. I want to work... This is what they're calling personality at this point.
Oh, dear.
It was... look, I don't drink anymore, as we all know, but beer still interests me as an industry. But my God, what a place.
Yeah, what a place. I think I went once and I was just like...
You went once to see me and then went, no.
Yeah, I don't think I even had a drink in there.
No, it was, you're paying like £7 for a pint of stuff that you don't even know what you're drinking.
Yeah.
That's the kind of place.
It was way overly pretentious.
Yeah.
Yeah, not great.
But I'm sure this record isn't. I'm sure it's incredibly humble. This is
I
why
don't
I
know
do.
about humble. It's definitely not pretentious though.
That was the best segue I could think of.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, gets back on topic. Absolutely. I don't know. Every track on here is a banger for me. I love all of them. I think the only one that really kind of jars from the sound and is very different is Shatter. It's a lot slower than the rest of them, and it's a lot more sort of thought-provoking, I'd say. And like Chrissy Costanza, the lead artist, she's the main singer, and she's very, very open with talking about like her dealings with grief, because a very, very close friend of hers died quite young. And that was what like the previous album was more about, Past Lives. It's, you know, it's like death of someone who you can't reconcile not being part of your life anymore, but also you know, you're excelling in your career, in your personal life, and it's this very big juxtaposition of, you know, I'm doing amazing professionally, but personally nothing is going right. And it's one of those things that I think, yeah, again, you know, that album came out when I was in university. This is Past Lives now. And you know, that's that kind of age where you get to be like, okay, my life is completely taken a turn now. You know, like everything you know when you grow up is, you know, school and the people you hang out with every day because you see them every day, and you know, this very safe sort of family unit where, you know, you have, you know, your parent or your parents who are there, that they look after you, they make sure that, you know, you're going through life okay, you're guided, and then you get obviously off to university or like a job or apprenticeship or whatever, and you're in this stage of your life where you don't actually know what's coming and you're solely responsible for yourself. And I don't know, that album really kind of came to me at a moment where I was figuring out where I was in my life as like the driving force behind my life, as, you know, the person in charge, which, you know, obviously at that point I hadn't really been.
I think no one does.
No.
I think you go once you leave home and once you finish your exams at the end of the year or whatever it is, you know, your apprenticeship or whatever it is you end up doing, you're just sort of thrust into the world, and the world sort of doesn't give you anything to do to deal with that.
Yeah.
Every single person goes through the same thing where they're just like, right, okay, I have to start living on my own terms now. And I'm exactly the same as you. That's why I love Cold Front so much, because I was 17 and that album had just come out and I was finishing up all my exams, and a lot of the songs are about understanding who you are, and learning how to deal with the kind of character that you're becoming. And I think it's a really interesting concept to think about when you're, you know, now that you're living in a flat in London and working in wherever it is you're working due to doxing reasons.
No doxing, thank you.
But now you're fairly well settled and you have plans for the future. But I imagine 9-10 years ago, or even, you know, 7 years ago, 7 years ago,
7 years ago,
that was completely unknown. You would never see yourself being in this position.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's nice to go back to these albums that, you know, Past Lives when I was a student in uni starting that journey, and then like, you know, Fever when everything got completely turned on its head. Like, you know, I finished uni, I had a career plan, I had an idea of where I was going, and then that all stopped, really like dead. And it was like, oh, I can't get into the area I was expecting to go into, and the world has completely shut down around me, and now I'm back working in a shop, and it's like, oh, well, what was the point of anything that just came before? Like, I'm doing the same thing I was when I was 16.
Back to square one.
Yeah, exactly. And now, you know, obviously a few years later, and it's kind of worked out the long way round. But, you know, it's nice to go back and listen to this and go, at the time when this came out, and I was really reliant on this for like, not my mental health, I would say, but like my mood. Like this album, Fever in particular, was very much like an energy booster for me. And you know, all that music of the time, but like obviously we're talking about Against the Current, so specifically for that, having that at the time was such a nice kind of, almost like a crutch to be there to enhance my mood or to get me through a difficult day, or like I'd finish work and be exhausted and I'd have the walk home, and you have that moment and it's just you in your head and your favorite music, and you just get that, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour where, you can come to terms with your day and how you're thinking and what you're feeling, and, going, oh God, is this all my life is ever going to be? And now I can do that on the way to work and sit on the tube and have these songs play, and it's like, oh no, this isn't all life is. Like, back then it was this walk that I did. Now it's the tube route that I do. In 5 more years it might be, hey, I'm on the subway in New York or whatever, or it might still be the tube, or it might be I'm driving to work or whatever.
You'll be riding by kangaroo based on what James said yesterday.
Oh God. I'm not moving to Australia. I do not do spiders.
Really big spiders, anyway.
Yeah, no spiders.
No spiders at all.
No spiders. But yeah, that's like always my takeaway when you come back to older music. Like, obviously this is still something I listen to very regularly, but sometimes out of nowhere it does just hit you like, oh hey, we made it. We did it. That
it's a grounding feeling.
It really is. It's honestly like a relief. Like, this music was the background of a really, really significantly time of upheaval, and in 2 very explicit cases. And now life has kind of plateaued a bit, which is nice.
Yeah, it's nice to have a more relaxing time, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, getting back to the topic of my brother over
God.
there, obviously you went to Lincoln for university around the time when that Past Lives and that kind of thing were coming out. And you met him.
I did.
When you were putting him in a trolley or something, wasn't it?
Oh God. Yeah. So
did the albums take you back to those specific days? Not necessarily just to do with him, but like the early days of university when you were saying, you were getting on your feet and just figuring out what you were going to do.
Yeah, so one of my favourite stories is the night that we spent homeless in Leeds. So James bought me tickets for a birthday to go and see Against the Current because they were touring. And for some reason didn't think, London, where we had friends or we lived close enough by that getting, to one of our respective homes would have been fairly easy after the gig. No, instead he bought the tickets for Leeds, which neither of us had ever been to before.
Was that planned, or did he just see Leeds and think it was London?
I genuinely don't know, and I've never asked, but I don't even know if it was planned.
Give it 40 minutes and then we'll ask him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's bursting over there to go, no, I had a plan. But tough, because he's not allowed on the recording. No, so we went up to Leeds, and we had to find we had to find our way around Leeds and be like, right, where are we? Where's the gig? What are we doing? So we had like a whole day there. And instead of doing the smart thing and like booking a hotel room or whatever, we were like, oh, we'll get like last train home. It's fine. Yeah, no. So we had to find so it was in a university like student nightclub-y thing as well. So we had to find that, which was again a bit of a nightmare. But once we found that, we got in. The warm-up act was very good. I don't remember them now. Oh, no, actually, I think I might. It was the Fame, F-A-I-M, actually. I do still listen to them, too.
Yeah, I know them.
They were the warm-up act, and they were lovely, actually. I think I've still got a photo with the lead singer, because he came out during Against the Current's gig and was in the crowd, which is quite sweet. Yeah, that was good, actually. But yeah, and then obviously the main act went on, Against the Current. Absolutely brilliant. Really, really good. And just, I didn't think I'd get to see them because this was a point, they didn't really tour the UK very much because they were a small band from America. They did mostly American shows and the occasional festival. So, they came over and we did the gig. It was great. And then we look up trains. And we'd missed the last train by like half an hour. So we were like, okay, well, the first train is at like 6 a.m. This is 10:30 at night. So it's like, okay. We'll go to a bar, we'll get some drinks, we'll find somewhere to hang around, we'll go clubbing maybe, and then, we'll spend like 2 hours waiting in the train station, it'll be fine. Yeah, Leeds is a lot. because this was Freshers Week as well. And so we found a couple of bars. We had a few drinks. We had a nice evening. And this got to about midnight, 1ish. And we're like, okay, maybe we should find a club or something, just so that we've got something to do. Yeah, no dice. There were queues around every corner to every club we came across.
Oh my God.
It was wild. There were people pissing in the street, vomiting everywhere.
Nice.
Your very typical pre-COVID freshers experience.
What day was this? Just like a random
I think
Tuesday?
it was like a Tuesday or a Wednesday or something, yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah. Anyway, so we were like, okay, 4 hours. It's cold, because it was like September, late September. And 1 in the morning. But it was like, okay, well, there's like a McDonald's. We'll hang around in there, like delinquent teenagers. There was a massive fight kicking off in the McDonald's, so we didn't go in there. We just went to the train station, and we were like, okay, I mean, there are seats. It's open. You're allowed to just hang around and wait, which
you're talking about this very optimistically.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was so fucking cold. We, our phones were mostly dead, so we had to keep them off to reserve the battery power so that we could, get the tickets up when we needed to leave the next day. It was freezing. We got harassed by a few homeless people asking for change, and we didn't have any because we were poor ourselves. We tried to sleep, and it was just so uncomfortable and so cold. And then our saving grace was that the McDonald's in the station opened at 5, so we finally managed to get in there for an hour and be a little bit warm and have something to eat. And oh my God, terrible experience, but the gig was brilliant, so it was still kind of worth it.
Silver linings. But yeah, that is the overriding memory. And I think we then went home and slept through most of the day. Yeah, I don't doubt that for a second.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's a quintessential experience of Leeds.
Yeah.
Get to see your favourite band and then hang around the city for a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Never again.
I've personally never been to Leeds, but a friend of mine...
it's a lovely city.
A friend of mine went there for university and he said it was awful. So he dropped out.
Oh, there you go then. 2 not great experiences.
Final damning indictment of that city.
Isn't it just? Sorry, Leeds.
Sorry, Leeds. I might come to see you one day, but there's not a lot. I'm sure there's plenty to see.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, as long as you have that rousing memory of the band itself.
Exactly, and I managed to see them just this year as well. Like I said, we saw them at Slam Dunk.
Go and listen to that episode.
Yeah, it was a great time. We really enjoyed it. But yeah, no, it was fantastic. And the 2 gigs 5 years apart, so different. Entirely different energy. Bigger crowd at Slam Dunk as well, which, I mean, obviously at a festival you get people who are, there for the artist or, there for another artist and are killing time or whatever. But it was a really good sized crowd for them, and pretty much everyone in there was vibing to it. A lot of dancing, mosh pit, which I wouldn't say they're a mosh pit band, so that really surprised me, but whatever.
People will find a way to mosh to anything these days.
Yeah, exactly.
You can find a Keen live show. They'll smash it.
I would love to fit to a Keen.
They'll smash
Keen
out
song.
a mosh pit to bend and break, don't you worry.
Fair. I mean, fair, actually. I would do that.
The
pit in Crystal Ball would go
Yes,
hard.
oh my God. Just another day, nothing in my way. Just going absolutely crazy. I bloody love Keen.
I love Keen.
I love Keen.
What an artist. Brilliant.
I could spend 3 hours talking about Keen, in fairness.
Try and get my mum on here then. She loves Keen.
Well, get my mum on here.
That'd be
She
fun.
wants to talk about Keen.
Oh, there you go then.
There you go. There's the demographic right there.
But yeah, no, the stage presence, the difference, honestly, just the confidence in all of them was so nice to see. And obviously it's because they've done touring that I haven't seen, that I haven't been able to go and see, and other shows, and they've gotten another album out, and all of that I think really bolstered them, because actually when we went to see them that first time, the album hadn't even fully come out. It was only half of it. So their show, they didn't even do all the songs on the album. So that was incredible, just to go and see them do all the hits on all of their discographies, and that was really, really cool.
Have you been following their more modern releases recently in the past couple of months?
A little bit, yeah. So Their most recent is...
Well, they did one with Ryan Oakes.
Yes.
Almost just at the beginning of this month.
Yes.
Which I personally haven't listened to.
I've heard it. I'm actually kind of not the biggest fan of it.
Ah.
Yeah, which surprised me as well. Because I like pretty much everything that they've done. But this one, I don't know, didn't really hit for me. That said, though, Barely Breathing with From Ashes to New, I really liked immediately. And of course, Chrissy Costanza is on the Disney album. She plays like Jasmine's part in Whole New World, and it's brilliant. It is so good. Yeah, I can't recommend that enough. That is genuinely on my on repeat on Spotify, and if I'm probably going to embarrass myself with my Spotify rap, but that is probably going to be on there.
Oh God,
really
yeah, that's quite soon, isn't it? We're recording this on what, the 30th?
Yeah. Does it come out on the 1st?
It's generally I think it's the 1st of December.
Yeah. Oh well, we'll know soon enough.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Well, mine probably won't have any surprises. In fairness, mine's fairly to the point.
Against the Current and Don Broco have been on my top 5 every year since they've done it. So I'm expecting them again.
Is Don Broco influence from
James as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
figured much.
Yeah, I mean.
But Against the Current is all you.
Against the Current is all me. It was, obviously
Influence from
someone else, but I think that's, how can you get into other music without other people pointing out to you sometimes? Like, I have no qualms in saying, yeah, pretty much every one of my favorite bands I was introduced to by someone else. Like, I don't actively go looking for new music, I'd say. It's not that music's unimportant to me, because I wouldn't do this otherwise, but it's not something I actively seek out, because I like connecting my music to memories and people. So I like other people showing me their music and then taking my own interpretations of that and like thoughts on that and just connecting it to that person forever.
I think it's just nice to have that kind of, I guess it's like reminiscing, isn't it? You can attach songs to memories, good or bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Evidently.
yeah.
But I think it's just nice to have that feeling of. It was like when I was in Marrakesh fairly recently, and it was my first time on my own, traveling by myself, exploring a different continent, a different country, and obviously that's quite daunting for any person, especially someone like me who has anxiety for the win. But what I found is that the way to ground myself is to have one earphone in and just consistently play songs that I recognised, and it grounds you so well, even if it's not really something that you've heard regularly. It's just I put on like one of the playlists that I downloaded fucking years ago with songs from like 2018 that I didn't know I hadn't heard in years. But what it did is that every time I felt slightly overwhelmed in this weird culture that I've never experienced before, I could go, oh, Sleep on It is in my ear, or Seaway, or Cold Front, or whatever is in there, and I can hear it, and I can go, I know them.
Yeah, this is familiar.
This is familiar. I don't feel as bad anymore. I don't feel as overwhelmed. And then I just go, great, cool. And then I bought sugarcane juice from a man that I'd never chatted to before.
Very cool.
And then asked me if I wanted to buy some hash.
Oh, very cool.
Marrakesh is a wonderful place.
I do want to go. I really do.
I thoroughly recommend. But do you have any sort of, outside of the gig itself, do you have any major memories that Against the Current has enhanced, or just one that the band itself is affiliated with? Obviously, university played a role, but is there anything outside of that or more recently that's come up?
So, like, one of my really, like, abiding memories of them. So actually I have 2. So one is older, one is That Won't Save Us. When that came out, I was, like I said, working in the shop. It was actually around Christmas time. And I was doing like really late nights. Sorry, Nick has just spilt. What are you spilt on you?
It's Oasis from last night.
Ah, very nice. Anyway, so I was doing night shifts, so like 10, 12 hours where you're dripping all over yourself.
Oh my God, I'm making an absolute mess of this. I only brought one t-shirt.
Oh dear.
It's a neck deep top, granted.
Ah, fair enough.
I'm still branding. I'm still supporting the small guys.
The small guys, absolutely.
Sorry, please continue while I spill everything on myself.
It's fine, go for it. Just don't get it on my couch.
Yeah, all on the t-shirt.
All on the t-shirt.
I'm safe. I won't be murdered.
There you go then. That's fine.
Bloody hell, that was a threat.
Oh dear. But yeah, anyway, so I was working in the shop doing night shifts, 10, 12 hours. And in like restocking shelves and basically getting people's Christmas orders ready in like a freezing cold warehouse. And it was a team of, I think, 4 or 5 of us, because you had to volunteer, but it was double pay. So I was like, yes, please. Because I was broke. And I did this for 2 weeks, the run up to Christmas, the last 2 weeks before. And the last day was Christmas Eve going into Christmas Day. And I remember it so clearly because we had to like all we'd been doing was getting orders ready for people to make sure they had it. And Christmas Eve was like the last time people could come and like get all their stuff. So the shop was open for customers really late. And I hadn't really been interacting with like people at this point. It was literally just a small team of 4 or 5 of us that volunteered, who I'd see for, half an hour on a break, like wander around. And we were all wearing headphones and in like 3-4 layers because it was genuinely ice cold in there. So it was like wandering around with people with like boo bars, like just wandering around in this empty shop and warehouse attached. And you just kind of like start disassociating. You're like, okay, I'm not really real anymore. I haven't had like any human interaction in ages because I'd sleep through the day. So I wouldn't see my grandparents who I was living with, and then I'd get up and go to work, and I wouldn't really talk to anyone, and I'd be on my own. And it's really quite isolating. It was almost sort of sad, but also really calm. I don't know. It was really, really odd couple of weeks. But I really remember like this Christmas Eve when it was really open late. I think we served the last person at like midnight. And it was just like the first time I'd had interaction with people for like an extended period of time in quite some time. And it was Christmas Eve. It was like quite nice. There was no one really being all grouchy. It was just people here to pick up stuff that they'd already ordered. They knew they were going to get it, even if like there was a bit of a wait while we were handing packages out. And just everybody was in a good mood and really happy, and like it was quite festive. And then when everybody finally did leave at like midnight, and then we had to strip all the shelves because obviously the shop was closed the next day. And then, you kind of went back to what had been normal for the last 2 weeks of, okay, headphones in, I don't talk to anybody for like the next 6 hours. And then the first song on my playlist I listened to was That Won't Save Us. And I don't know, it was one of those like almost Nirvana moments where, you've had all this interaction that you haven't been having in a long time. And then you're finally back in this like almost comfort space that you've carved out for yourself over the last few weeks. And this song comes on that you love that is just so identifiably that time. And it goes on and it's like, oh, I'm kind of in one of the best moments right now. Like, yes, I've gone back to kind of being on my own, but I've been reminded that at the end of the day, people are people, and there is kindness and there are good things in the world, even if the world is not nice at the current moment, with all the pandemic things going on. So that's kind of my abiding memory, and that's why I really like that song in particular, because it's just such a clear, like really full of clarity moment, which I really, really like. And then more recently, just literally every single time I take the tube, and for me, Lullaby is, I think, my favorite, I guess, the current song. It's kind of sad, but in a very kind of fighting talk kind of way.
Is it like melancholic, or is it just...
No, it's like I've been struggling against these things and I'm not going to be held down by them anymore kind of way. It's like it's like a fighting song, and I really like it. And And yeah, when I first moved to London, it was all a bit of a struggle. It was, it's expensive. It's, we're trying to move and we didn't take any time off work because we're silly. So, we were living in and out of boxes and, weren't seeing each other very often because we were both working in hospitality jobs. So we were working weird hours. So I wasn't seeing James all that much. And I felt kind of on my own. And obviously I wasn't, but, you move to the city and it's so different and...
Such a daunting place.
Yeah, like, I didn't really know anyone. Like, all the people who live here, who are my friends, but, like, they were James's friends as well. And they were very much James's boys from when he was younger. So it was very much like, oh, my community is, not really here. And I didn't really know the people at work yet. And yeah, I did feel quite alone. And then obviously it's like you said, it's nice to have that reassurance of something that is familiar. And that song comes on, Lullaby, that I know that I, listened to over and over and over. And it sort of feels like an old friend. Like, and also because it's like a bit of a fighting talk song. Like, you can get through this. Like, it's going to be hard, but you will come out the other side. It's going to be all right. And that was like quite a good little reassurance I needed at that point.
It's amazing that you almost personified the song itself.
Yeah.
You can take it and go almost as if you can have your own conversation with it.
Yeah.
It tells its stories and it's almost there to support you like a friend would. And that kind of feeling as well is really interesting because you have the happiness and the understanding of when you're a kid where you're like, oh, I'm happy because everything's fun and everything's awesome. There's no responsibility. But then you have your adult happiness where you go, I've been through some shit.
Yeah.
But I come out the other side and
it's going well
now.
I
feel good. I feel grounded and I feel safe. And obviously we're in your flat. You're in James's flat now.
Yeah.
I mean, what are your thoughts on? Because obviously you're originally from Buckinghamshire, isn't it?
I am.
So you've gone from there. Then you moved to Lincoln. Now you're in London.
Yep.
You don't want to move to Australia, but
I'm not moving to Australia.
But your other half really wants to.
I will compromise. We'll do New Zealand.
We'll go halfway.
Yeah.
Move to like China or Mongolia. Just go halfway across.
Just halfway across the world.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Wherever the plane stops off, that's where you can get off. But like, where do you see a future being in London, or do you see like yourself moving again and whatever is out? Out there in the future, as it were.
It's a big world, I wanna see.
Because obviously, I'm going to be involved in it somehow.
Yeah,
I don't have a lot of choice.
No, sorry, you're along for the ride now.
Yeah, I know.
Eight nearly years. It's,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Oh, I'm so old.
Aww.
Oh,
so am I.
But you're older, so I feel better.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a big world. I want to go and see as much of it as I can. Like, I always wanted to move to London, and James did too. So that was one of the things that bonded us originally, because we both live kind of 90-ish miles away from each other. Like, where we grew up is like 90 miles apart, literally in the opposite sides of London. So, we'd both grown up coming to the city and loving it, and it being part of who we are. So, yeah, we were always going to be here, and making the move to be here at the time we did it was just absolutely right. The stars aligned. We had the money to do it, and we were, in a good place to move over. It was good for our careers, etc. So it was, when it happened, it was like, great, this is perfect. We'll do this for a while. And, we've still got a fair amount of time on our lease here. So, we're settled. We're not thinking about moving anytime soon. But, like, I'm staring down the barrel of 30, which is a terrifying thing to say. But I think, I'd like to see out my 20s in London. And then maybe, 30s, I'll go somewhere else. Like I said earlier, maybe New York. I'd love to see New Zealand. I'd love to, like you said, China, Morocco, everywhere and anywhere, really. I'd like to do a little bit of time living in Europe because it's lovely. It's beautiful. Yeah, anywhere and everywhere.
You got a lot of ambition.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah.
That was genuinely something that it got me a job, but I was also told you have a lot of ambition in the post notes for it, which I don't know was a good or a bad thing. Yeah.
I don't really know what that means.
Yeah, I know, right? I have a lot of ambition. Thank you.
Great.
It's a business. Do you not want that? I'm gonna make you more money.
Yeah, you're too enthusiastic for the role. We can't take you on.
Yeah. That one stayed with me.
Yeah, no, I imagine so. Well, one thing going back to Against the Current that I thought would be interesting. Obviously, it's a female-fronted band.
It is.
Which is hopefully a more or an increasing part of the pop punk scene. Obviously, it is a very male-orientated genre.
It is. You've got people like Honey Revenge coming through.
Exactly as I was going to say. You've got Stand Atlantic. You've got a few of other bands. I saw Stand Atlantic and Honey Revenge together.
Yeah,
and one of the things that I remember, I can't remember the lead singer's name now, but she went, "How many of you out there are really gay?" And everyone started cheering. And she said, "How many of you want to be gay? Because we make it look really fun." And then I went, "Woo, yeah!"
Yay!
But obviously, there's so much character out there. Honey Revenge especially are such a vibrant band at the moment and really up and coming. But is Against the Current being a female-fronted band, is that a major aspect of why you like them?
Yeah.
Because I presumed much, but I thought I'd get your words on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Female-fronted anything, I always want to throw my support behind, throw my money at. At the end of the day, yes, female-fronted everything has come a long way, and that's never something to be taken for granted. But it's also not something where it's like, okay, we're done now. Absolutely not. It's
not a tick box.
It's not a tick box. It's a constantly evolving thing. Like you said, pop punk especially, it's still very much a male-fronted industry. And obviously you do have the women-centered bands coming through. But yeah, I think it was important to me as well that I talked very specifically about Against the Current for this, because they are important to me, and it's good to talk about a band that are so central to my life so far, and that they're very much a feminist band, and they've inspired my love of other bands like that, like Honey Revenge. I saw Honey Revenge because I was seeing Against the Current, and they were playing in the same tent at Slam Dunk, and I was like, yeah, I'll give this a go. This looks like my kind of thing. And it really, really was. It is a similar enough sound. Very different, obviously, because they are their own thing. But I heard them and I was like, oh, this is like Against the Current.
I can get on board with this.
I can get on board with this, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly my thought process. And yeah, Honey Revenge also probably going to be in my Spotify Wrapped, which... Yeah, I listen to them a lot.
Yeah, well, their album Retrovision was brilliant.
Retrovision, yeah,
really, really good. But some of the bands that I've seen recently, mainly that you might be interested in, you have Eat Your Heart Out, you have Glitch Kingdom, and there was another one called Corsten, who recently did an album that was specifically about having anxiety. It was their debut album, female fronted,
nice.
And I think particularly those three bands, obviously Stand Atlantic, Honey Revenge are getting all the attention at the moment, particularly because of their, I think Honey Revenge is mostly either all LGBT members,
yes.
But I think majority women anyway.
Yeah.
So they're making huge steps, and then you have other bands like Action Adventure who are representing African American groups, BIPOC members of the genre.
That's great.
And I think it's a really important way of showing representation in a genre that is predominantly run by white men. Not that this is a bad thing, because obviously I love The Story So Far and Neck Deep and State Champs and all these groups who are great. It just so happens that they're all very similar in representation, and in a day and age where everyone wants to be represented
and should be,
it's great to have bands who are able to do that and sort of
take their own stand because of who they are,
exactly, and have a connection with people. It's in the same vein that a lot of African American people really represented themselves with Black Panther and Chadwick Boseman, because they get to see someone like themselves on the big screen or on stage.
You can't be what you can't see.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't think you've ever been, I'm not sure how musical you are, learning guitar or whatever it is.
I did the flute, actually.
The flute. Oh, there we go. Wind instruments.
Yep.
The only wind instrument now is my brother. So,
yeah.
It's nice to see that you've carried it on. But obviously to see a female-fronted band at Slam Dunk, I imagine was
was
quite
great.
a moment for you.
Yeah, because there were a couple as well. But yeah, it really did kind of highlight how in the minority that was, and that was actually kind of sad. Like, it was great to see them there, but the fact that there weren't so many was quite sad. But they held their own. They were both brilliant. And at the end of the day, it's still a step in the right direction. And yeah, it's important to me that as a female-fronted band, they are getting attention. They are, being shown to hold that space and to excel in it as well. And I think that's important as well. Like, they're not just doing it; they're doing it well. And it's from a very personal perspective as well. Like, Chrissy Costanza is very open about her mental health, her hyperfixations, her obsessions. Like, she's always talking about League of Legends and like being a gamer and putting herself in another space that's not great for women, but being like very open about that as well. Her albums are obviously about her own personal grief as well, and her songs have that as a through line, and her songs have also that feeling of being a woman in a man's world, and having to fight for everything, and really having to like go for all your success and like really chase it. It's always about the hard work, and I think that's important as well. You have to make the stand about, I'm not just lucky. This wasn't handed to me. This is something that's worked for every day. Because can't we all relate to that? You get a promotion at work. You've worked for it. You get your way to the city that you want to be in. You've worked for that. It's the culmination of not just one thing handed to you. It's every little thing that you've struggled and fought for and had to sacrifice to get.
And do you think I think we touched on it briefly in the previous episode about Slam Dunk, but do you think the genre is going in the direction of better representation, or do you think it's just, we have these bands now, this is great, but it is that checklist, as it were?
No, I think it is. I just think that at the moment we're in a time very politically and globally politically, I mean, that there's a lot going on. Like, obviously Americans have the recent election and all of everything that came with that.
Let's not mention that.
I mean, there's a genocide happening in Palestine that people feel very strongly about as well, which they should. There's obviously the war in Ukraine. There's all these things that are, and obviously like the climate crisis, which is huge and affects everybody everywhere. And all the other things that either you can't hold space in your head for, or just don't know about because it's not as prolific in the media. But there are all these awful, terrible things that are happening, and with social media as well, where we find out about all the different sides of these things happening as well, that I think everyone is getting into a way to make their voice heard, because everyone has thoughts on all these things, and that's why you're getting more representation, because more and more issues are being addressed. Like, if you can't put that into music, if you can't put that into words, then how can you express yourself and how you're feeling? If you can't make art about all these different issues, then what's the point of being alive, really?
Do you have anywhere that you think you can share your creative spark, as it were? Because I know you're a big F1 fan. And
I am.
Big. We haven't even mentioned that yet. But where would you say, with that artistic spark, as it were, where would you say your interests lie in that?
I mean, well, I'm a writer at heart and always have been. That's what I did my degree in. It's, I was making little books, little like fiction stories of like 8 pages all like super glued together.
Have I ever read any of those?
No.
Can I?
No.
I would like to. I'm gonna hunt them down.
Oh God. And I wrote fan fiction back in the day, because who didn't? I was on Tumblr in 2014. Yeah.
Is that why you're such an avid My Immortal fan?
Oh, shut up.
I was introduced to this only recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where the hell have you been?
It was last night.
Oh my god.
Someone told me about My Immortal and I'd never read it before.
You've never... Oh my god. I need to educate you.
I was purified by...
You were innocent until last night.
Yeah. Things have changed.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Please tell me you didn't write stuff like that.
No, God, no. I can write. Not great, but better than that. Jesus.
God.
Yeah. But no, like, everybody has their own, like, creative outlet, I think. Like, anyone who's like, I don't read, I don't write. Okay, fine. Do you listen to music? Can you see a picture and think it's beautiful? Can you observe something around you and want to take a picture of it? That's all art, And I think that's kind of the crux of the matter. I like listening to artists when, like, I'm listening to music. I like listening to artists who have something to say and who also just kind of make their art because they love the process of making that art. It's like this. It's where like you keep your soul, I think. And that's what it is for me with Against the Current and Honey Revenge and Don Broco, who are like my favorites at the moment. Like, you can hear their soul and their love in everything that they do, that they make, because that's why they're doing it. It's their way of connecting with the world, and that's my way of connecting with the world as well, but through their art.
I think having that connection with certain bands, I mean, obviously Don Broco I've heard about for a while, just because
James
and my other brother, who will come on the show soon, are huge fans. But I guess all of them have their unique creative outlet, and everyone has that and can, share it with the world in whatever way they deem necessary. And especially someone like Against the Current, they've been able to resonate with you in a way, not just creatively, but emotionally, and in every single manner that is important to you. And as a sort of final note on them, have Against the Current taught you anything through their music, or do they have a sort of underlying message that has resonated with you that you're going to take into the future, or have taken since you listened to them?
Well, since I got into them, I've had a couple of people very close to me die. And because obviously, like I've said, these albums a lot of the music is about grief and processing grief. And I think for me, that's been the most important thing. It's knowing that there are other people out there that are struggling with that, and that, obviously grief is a personal thing, but knowing that there are other people out there who, struggle to process it and have to turn it into something beautiful, and that's a good way to honor someone is, I think, important, and is probably one of the best things about having this band in my life and being one that I love. I think that. Wonderful.
Well, that's a nice little sentiment to close everything off.
Yeah.
And I've actually learned something about the band, because we've been talking about them for ages, saying we're going to do this.
Yes.
But I didn't realise just how much of a place they had in your world. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, of course.
It's been a pleasure, as always.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I mean,
in my flat, or whatever.
I'm in your flat. But yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing all that. Obviously, it's nice to hear someone who's part of the family, I guess, sharing their feelings on that stuff. Because the last person I did that with was James, and that was over a year ago.
Yeah.
Got to get my other brother on.
Yeah, Charlie should do it.
He should. I know what his album is.
Oh?
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
Absolutely not. But yeah, I appreciate that.
Can I ask as well, because I know you've listened to some of the stuff, what was your favourite?
Oh, God. Put me on the spot now.
I know.
That's a good question. I would probably say, if I had to pick one, I really liked Jump.
I really like Jump. Jump's good.
It's got the name is very apt.
Yeah.
It gets you going.
It does.
Gets you riled up. And I like that kind of energy, especially in a band like that.
Yeah.
And did they play that live?
They did. It
I
was
imagine
great. That was one of the pit songs.
Yeah. I thought so. Yeah, I'd like to see them at least once, actually. Probably with you.
Yeah, probably. We'll go.
We'll get it into it. Lovely. Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Shall we go and get lunch?
Yes, I'm starving.
Excellent.